I went into the bathroom, and I'll never forget, I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize myself, you know? Like, I looked in, and I just was like, who the fuck is that? I called, like, a hotline number. It was like, I don't even know what it was. You know, I didn't call my parents or nothing, which I probably could have, but I wanted to do it myself. So I got myself, somehow, I mustered up the energy and had that spiritual awakening moment when I looked in the mirror, and instantly I called this phone number, and they said, okay, you can come into this place. It was in like northern New Hampshire and all this stuff, and it was just, I had to figure out how to get there, and I made it happen. At the end of class, the man teaching the class was a guy named Cole Miller. He taught the whole class. In the end of class, he goes, say the last 15 minutes we're sparring, everyone partner up, and I'm like, oh, this is what I came for, like, let's go. I'm all excited. He goes, you want to spar? I go, yeah, I just asked you. He goes, all right, let's go. The coach, Charles McCarthy, the first man I met when I walked in, was watching, you know, from a distance, because he wasn't teaching the class. He's probably just doing paperwork in the office for the students. I just kind of was like looking at him, and he's like, do you know who that was you just sparred with? I go, no. He goes, that's Cole Miller. He's a top 10 fighter in the UFC right now. And I go, that guy? My biggest strength in my entire UFC career, you know, I fought in the UFC for 10 years, and I'm still fighting now. I'm a, you know, 2-time world champion. Like, my dreams all came true, you know, after this, is that it came from that. Like, that struggle is what made me be great. Every day is a fight you can win. When you wake up in the morning, you answer the bell, you get out of bed, the fight is, you know, not picking up a drug, not taking a drink. That's a decision you can make every single day. And if you don't make that decision, then you win that fight. And if you can have that small victory in yourself and have some pride in it, and have pride in not doing that stuff, then your chances, I think, skyrocket tremendously.
This is the Recovery Guide podcast with Michael Herbert, where powerful stories and actionable insights empower individuals on their recovery journey to build resilience and make a lasting impact. I'm glad you're here, so let's get started. Today's guest is Charles Rosa, MMA fighter, bare knuckles fighter from the series Ice Wars, is going to be talking to us about his humble beginnings, his tough beginnings in Boston, and how he went from chef to top MMA fighter in the United States. Boy, this is a real gritty story. He's going to be talking about fighting in the ring. He's going to be talking about his family. He's going to talk about addiction and also his unique recovery process. So this is a great episode, and I know you'll enjoy it. Charles, welcome to the podcast.
Man,
great to have you here, and thank you for the T-shirt. This is a great T-shirt, and it fits me just right.
Yep,
yeah.
Rosa Nation, man.
Uh-huh. You know, one of the things that you said was you trained all week, and then you almost took today off. It's almost like you prepared for this through training. And one of the things that I do is anytime I do a podcast, I do at least an hour workout that morning. And I don't know what it does for me, releasing energy. I don't know if it calms me or what, but it is in my practice too, to physically do something before I do something like this.
Yeah, it's endorphins, man. I'm a big believer in that. Like, that's what keeps me going every day and keeps me working out and doing what I love to do. I get a good feel. Like, when I work out, that's what it's like, almost like my drug for the day or fix for the day, as crazy as it sounds. I work out and I always feel good. There's never been a time I worked out that I didn't feel great after, and then it just makes the rest of the day easier.
Yeah. So you have a really strong accent. Where are you from?
Boston.
You're from Boston.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your life in Boston before you came to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but I'll just give you kind of a background of how I grew up and where I grew up, and, you know, the lifestyle and the things I was taught by my father and my family, and, you know, just, you know, being from Boston. You know, first off, I'm like the Boston breed, Irish, half Italian, so that's like most of the things. If you've seen all those movies like The Town and Good Will Hunting and stuff like that, you can kind of just get the setting. I grew up a little bit north of Boston in the suburbs, and a place called Peabody, Massachusetts. And man, I grew up in a large Italian family. I had, you know, 6 brothers and sisters. I have 4 now. I lost my 2 older brothers, Dominic and Vincent, to drug overdoses when I was 16, and the following year when I was 17. So
how old were they?
They were 22 and 24. So
wow.
Yeah. So, like, for me, they were my role models. They were the people I looked up to most, my big brothers. So in a strange way, since my little brothers, Lucas and Francis, they're identical twins, they're 10 years younger than me, I went from being the youngest brother and having, like, these 2 mentors to look up to to being the oldest brother and being the one to have to look out for my younger brothers. So it was definitely, a tough way to grow up. And, one thing my father always told me that was a big thing for me is he told me to never give up and to always be strong. We were raised like a tough family. Like, we come from a long line of fighters. I do believe fighting is in your DNA. I think it's in everybody's DNA.
When you say a long line of fighters, meaning professional or amateur, actually boxers, fighters?
Yes, my grandfather, Dominic Rosa, was a Navy boxing champion. He went on to do businesses and had a very successful business career, so he didn't turn it into a professional career. My uncle, Tom the Bomb Rosa, is a local tough man champion from New England, like the ultimate Boston man. He's still fighting now. He's 58 years old. He's the Masters United States Masters boxing champion at the moment, and he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame of boxing, and something I'm real proud of. He's like my rock, man. He helps me so much. And my dad was also a fighter, and he was had 6 kids and had a family, so he never got to pursue his professional career. But I honestly believe, and I've been around the block, I've been at the best MMA gyms on the planet. I think if my father focused on fighting, I think he would have been a world champion, and I have no doubt in my mind. And everyone thinks their father's the toughest and stuff like that, and they're the strongest, but he's a tough, solid guy.
I got to tell you, your father is tough because he does something every day and has been doing this every day for a long time. Can you tell what it is that your father does?
So after the passing of my 2 older brothers, Dominic and Vincent, my dad was no saint himself. Like, growing up, he was a rough, tough, rugged guy, and just like, sometimes drinking, and it was, growing up was tough. He was a tough guy, but he always took care of the family, always put food on the table. But after losing my 2 older brothers, Dominic and Vincent, I think, something went off, obviously, and probably had some guilt and just feeling from it. And his way of dealing with it is we put my brother Dominic and Vincent's ashes in the ocean. And we have a beach house up in New Hampshire, and the beach is right next to the house, so you can just walk out, put the ashes in the ocean. And my dad's way of dealing with the passing of my brothers is every day he would go in the ocean. And if you're not familiar with New England, New Hampshire in the wintertime can be negative 15 degrees some days.
It's cold, yeah.
But the ocean doesn't freeze. So it's not like a lake where you can go jump in it. And my dad would go every single morning and jump in the ocean, freezing cold, negative 15 degrees. He would jump in, be icicles stuck to his, his hairy body when he gets out. And after him doing that, he did it every day for like a year. And then finally someone was like, you should do something with that. And at that time, he was going to high schools, colleges, treatment centers, and speaking with kids on the dangers of addiction, educating teens on substance abuse. So the answer is they came up with a charity called Chucky's Fight, and it's a charity dedicated to help knock out substance abuse and help teenagers and adults and people to get into treatment and get them a kickstart, because the government wasn't doing much to help at the time. They were very so he would get people to call him. He'd maybe pay for their first week of treatment and stuff like that. And as it built, he was able to get governors to jump in the water, celebrities, people to start jumping in, and that started raising money. They've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. My dad has thousands of testimonials. He's had Tulsi Gabbard, who was running for president of the United States, come and jump in. She's a tough customer too. She came and jumped in, and was like probably the biggest person so far, but she was has brought a lot of light to it. And my dad's helped sign bills on Congress and things to help people get in the treatment centers and raise funds for people with addiction.
How old
issues.
is your dad?
I think he's 67 now. So
and he's been doing this for how long?
Since I moved down to Florida. So that's when I moved down. When I met you, must have been 17 years ago.
Wow.
And he's been at it. He's
That's
been
a long
helping
time.
people since.
They call that perseverance. He continues.
Well, something very funny for me is just because I had this image as a kid of my dad, driving me to a hockey game, and I'm too small to look over the window. I can't see over it. I'm so young. And I'm trying to see, and all I hear is the car stop, him open the door, and I hear some guy screaming, yelling. It must have been a traffic issue or something. Gets back in the car, drives me to the hockey game, but I couldn't see what happened. I just heard it. And so in my head, I'm like, man, my pops was a madman, in my head. And he would run down the street in his boots in the wintertime with 2 bricks in his hand, probably after drinking a little bit of whiskey, and running around the neighborhood. He was like, I don't know. He's like, I guess like the white Kimbo Slice, you know what I mean? Like he was just of a suburban type, you know, and everybody, you know, knew not to kind of, you know, mess with him, but he was the nice guy. He wasn't like he was like a terror, but in my head I was like, man, like and just to come full circle is so interesting that like I think it must have been like 8 or 9 years ago he won Citizen of the Year in New Hampshire. And in my image of him doing that to this, it's like it's almost like for me it's comical, you know what I mean? But he did help a lot of people. I mean, we were honored at a Celtics basketball game also, where Dana White and a couple other like big shots were there, and you know they honored him as Citizen of the Year, and it was like at the Boston Garden where the Celtics play and won all those championships, and like I could do nothing but just laugh, you know, in my head, not out loud, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, but he's done a lot. He's put a lot of work in and helped a lot of people. Like I said, thousands of testimonials of kids and people saying that he's helped save their life. And even if he helped even one person, for him it was worth it, you know, after losing my brothers.
Yeah. And how has he helped you in your struggle with addiction?
Man, I think he's helped me the most too, because I talk to him almost every single day. And he has a completely different approach on recovery. You know, like he doesn't. I mean, he'll go to a meeting and help someone if they ask him to, but that's not his style. He says, this is specifically what he says, and something that I think helps me tremendously, and I think it can help anybody with a little bit of fight in them. And like I said, I think everybody has fighting in their DNA. I think it's just something that every human is born with from, you know, day one of mankind. He says that. Every morning is a fight. Every day is a fight you can win. When you wake up in the morning, you answer the bell, you get out of bed, it's a fight you can win, you know, and the fight is, you know, not picking up a drug, not taking a drink and stuff like that. That's a decision you can make every single day. And if you don't make that decision, I do agree with the one day at a time. Like if you don't, you know, go to drive past that liquor store or stop or take a drugs or stuff like that, then you win that fight. And if you can have that small victory in yourself and have some pride in it, and have pride in not doing that stuff, then your chances, I think, skyrocket tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have a drug problem or had a drug problem. How did it start for you?
I mean, with pretty much when I was young, I was 13, 14 years old. And like I said, my brothers were my mentors. They were awesome. So anything they said to do, I did it. You know what I'm saying? And they never, like, gave me drugs and said to do this, like, and forced me to do anything, but you know, like, started off just, you know what I'm saying, like, just growing up in the suburbs, the Boston, the culture, all the kids around the neighborhood. It's just, you know, one day they're this and that, and then it builds. So I think where it really turned into a drug problem, because I feel like a lot of kids and stuff experiment with smoking weed and drinking and smoking cigarettes. Like, I think, I'm not gonna say it's like common, but I'd say it's pretty much all my friends did. So I just look at it like that. And but I think that once I lost my first older brother, Vincent, and then I started hanging out with my older brother, Dom, and that was his way, and then eventually became my way of coping with the loss of my brother, Vincent. You know, I knew if I took a pill or took something to wipe away that fear that I never went with. My family never believed in treatment or going to therapists. I was always told, you know, growing up in Boston, you know, you keep your mouth shut, you tough Boston kid, like, we're not doing therapy, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just.
So how did you wind up in treatment?
So, like I said, after my brother Vincent passed away, then my brother Dominic passed away, man. Like, I went to college. I was, by the grace of God, able to graduate with a degree in culinary arts. I still don't know how, but I never dealt with the loss of my older two brothers. So that, I feel like that is what made my, like, you know, drinking and drugging and all that stuff get really bad, as I just mentally tough through, like, you know, put my chin down and tough through college. Still don't know how I was able to do it, but after that, I was kind of empty. I was like, man, I have a problem that I never dealt with, and I eventually just got worse and worse, and my mental health got worse and worse, and I got to the point where actually I was living in a house in New Hampshire. And like they said, there's these moments that you have, like a spiritual awakening, they call, and stuff like that. And my moment was, you know, I had a nice girlfriend at the time that started to get bad. I never forget, I was sitting in my little apartment. It must have been summer break because I was still technically in college, but it was summer break. So I had this summer house in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. and I was probably selling weed and other things at the time out of the house, and people would come in and out. But I remember one day my cousin, I started, and then this is when I was really bad, probably the worst I ever was of my addiction, just in my room, shades down, beautiful day out, summer day. I have, Rosa Nation, the shirt you're wearing, my mom and dad each have 8 brothers and sisters, so I have over, 60 or 70 cousins. Like, I have a lot of cousins, and all of them I'm close with. A lot of them my age, some of them younger, older, but we're close. We have good family dynamics, and all of them have beach houses up in New Hampshire, so we're all together. Mine was down the street, like, in an apartment, and I I got a call from my cousin Lindsay. I could barely get out of bed that morning, I remember, and she's like, "Hey, Charles, how are you?" My cousin Lindsay, Rosa, and she's like, "What are you doing? We're all at the beach, all the family, all the cousins." And I remember just thinking, like the windows down. It felt like it was raining and dark out. I didn't know, but I opened the window full of the light. It was a beautiful day, and I just remember thinking, I can't make it to the beach today. So I stayed in that house, and I just had a tough day. I made things worse and worse, and I went into the bathroom, and I never forget, I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize myself, I looked in, and I just was like, who the fuck is that? I looked in the mirror, and I did not recognize myself. It wasn't a person that I knew. I was like, what? So
what's going on now? It
Yeah.
looks like you're feeling something.
Nah, dude, I mean, it's like, it's real,
Yeah.
I think that moment saved my life. I think I would be in jail right now. So what happened from there, this is the crazy part of the story, is that I called a hotline number. It was I don't even know what it was. I didn't call my parents or nothing, which I probably could have, but I wanted to do it myself. So I got myself, somehow I mustered up the energy and had that spiritual awakening moment when I looked in the mirror, and instantly I called this phone number, and they said, okay, you can come into this place. It was in northern New Hampshire and all this stuff, and it was just, I had to figure out how to get there, and I made it happen. It was some random free program, the worst possible place you could probably go. I did it on my own. They drove me 3 hours north New Hampshire in the sticks and put me in this friggin' detox treatment center. Had no idea what it was. Maybe somebody helped me get in. I forget. I'm not sure if I completed it on my own, but I just remember getting there. And I was there for 2 days. It's deathly ill. Doctors checking on me. I'm like, oh, I need, going. It was just, I just remember it was like a bad dream. And then finally, once I was able to get completely sober, 3 or 4 days after finally my head clears, I'm like, okay, I'm good now. Let me go get my stuff. And I go in. This is the type of place that they can't detain you. It's not like you're sectioned and stuck there. If you want to leave, you can leave. So I was feeling better. I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave. So I go to the office. I tell the people I want to go. They didn't argue with me. They said, okay, I want to go, go. So they gave me my wallet, gave me my phone. Turned my phone on after not having it 4 days, not talking to anybody. I mean, everyone knew I was there and safe, but I decided to leave, and I start walking down this road in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire trying to find an Uber. You know what I mean? There's no, Uber. I don't even think there was Ubers. Maybe it was a taxi at the time. That was 20 years ago. So, yeah, a long time ago. I don't even think they had Ubers.
No, they didn't.
So I was trying to find a ride home.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I was looking. And finally, the calls start coming in. I start calling my uncle, my dad, and my dad answered the phone. He goes, where are you? I was like, oh, I'm coming home. I'm good now. And he's like, no, you're not. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he's like, your apartment? I went to clean out your apartment to get some of the stuff to make sure there was nothing in there. And the cops raided your apartment while I was walking up to the door. And, luckily, obviously I got rid of all the stuff before I went to treatment. I wasn't leaving it there. I sold it or whatever I had to do with it. And they were looking for me, And my dad knew the police officer and I don't know if it was the DEA, I don't want to say what it was, but they were looking for me, and they have been surveillancing me and building a case on me for months now. So in my head, I'm thinking, if I was there and didn't have that spiritual awakening, have my cousin call and look in the mirror and decide to go to that place, and if I was in the room when they came, I probably would be I'd probably be in jail for 8 years or 10 years, depending on what the lawyer was able to do. But it wasn't a good situation.
Sure.
When they came in, I had some kid, one kid that used to buy weed from me. I never forget, he put a motorcycle in my garage, and then it was stolen. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. All this stuff, and I'm like, I didn't even, you know what I mean? All this stuff started to build up, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. So I was able to called my Uncle Tommy, and I told him the situation. I said, listen, like, the police are looking for me. This is really, like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, we'll get you some help. He goes, I'm going to drive you right now. It was him. He works 9-to-5 job, and he has 5 kids that he has to take care of. And he drove me to Caron, Pennsylvania, to one of the best treatment centers on the planet. I think it's like $1,000 a day to stay there, the best one. And, man, that changed my life. And I went there, and I don't know whatever happened with that case or whatever, but I never had to deal with it. They never took me in or looked for me. And I went to the treatment center, and then the treatment center sent me down to South Florida, said, hey, we got this beautiful place. You can go surfing. You can. Well, I'll never forget you were working at the Renaissance when I went there. So after the 30-day treatment center at Caron, which was fun, it was, kids my age, it was very, supportive. It was tough, but it was therapy. They did a good job. They're like, want to go to this next place? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, well, Florida, beach, surfing. All right, sounds like my vibe. Let's do it. And I'll never forget, the second I got off that bus, I knew I made a mistake. I walked in, I was like, oh, no, they tricked me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm stuck. They took my wallet, took my phone, and they said, and I said, no, you got to give it back. They said, no, we don't have to do anything. Why don't you call the police and try to get it back? And I was like, what? Are you serious? Like, they just completely different dynamic. They said, you want to be a drug addict and lie to people and steal? I was like, we'll do the same thing. And I was like, what? Oh, man, I'm in the wrong place. This is all right. Looks like I'm strapped in now. And, I never forget the first time I walked across the grass, someone telling me, what do you walk across? Just go on the sidewalk. Like, felt like almost like, but it was the direction and the guidance that I think I needed. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met you. I met Jennifer Laurie, my therapist, and that's where I started my treatment.
Yeah. So how did you go from culinary art school, drug dealer Boston, to MMA? Where did that road start?
So that's where the story gets, this is where, like, the story is the best, is that I finally, when I went to Renaissance, is when I met Jennifer Laurie. She was my assigned therapist, so they gave me a therapist, something I was never really fond of is therapy, but I had a good relationship with her. I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot. Like, if they're paying all this money for me to be here, I might as well not waste it and try it. And, I went to grief groups, anger management groups, all these different groups, and she was one of my groups. And I did everything they said because I did want to get better and I did want to do the right thing. And I said, I'll give it a shot. Like, I'm not going to waste this, however much that place was expensive. So in my head, that was always like the reason, like, I don't want to, like, I got to give it a shot because I've been through, I didn't tell you about all the other trials and tribulations, but, there was a couple times I went to, after my brothers passed away, there's a thing called Section 35, which is basically like your parents can admit you to jail. Like, when I was 16, the following year when I was 17, I went to adult jail at Bridgewater. It was a civil commitment, so it's not like a thing on my record, but they said they thought I was a danger to myself after losing my 2 older brothers and experimenting with drugs. They thought that I was, not going to make it, so the judge put me in this place for 30 days. So I knew I didn't want to go back to that, like, basically go back to jail. So I was like, this is way better than that. And I met Jennifer Laurie, and I went to the groups, and I really believe that lady saved my life. She, yeah.
So did she direct you into boxing, or?
Yeah, so that's to answer the question. That's what you asked me, is like, how did I get into MMA and boxing? Well, I always told you about my Uncle Tom the Bomb Rosa, someone I always looked up to as a kid. Like, he was, my favorite uncle, person that helped me, and I would always go over his house. He would take me on trips to Six Flags, like, as a kid, he was always the awesome, like, he was the best uncle, and so I always looked up to him. So always in the back of my head, I always had, like, I want to do boxing and get into it at some point. So the directive happened when I was at Renaissance, and they would give you these directives in group, like, you need to go get a job. So the first directive they gave me was to go get a job. And luckily for me, I had a culinary arts degree, and I was able to go to the Atlantic Avenue in Delray Beach, go right into the best restaurant I could find, cut 432, walk right through the kitchen, even though they said they weren't hiring, found the chef Tony Pizzo, and he hired me. He said, well, and got a job. So I did that. First directive completed. Next directive, I started working, the restaurant. I said, man, like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life, is cut onions and tell people that I didn't put mango in their salad and I put too much. Like, something's missing. Like, I played sports. One thing I didn't really mention in the podcast at the beginning of my story is that since I remember I could walk, I could ice skate, I played hockey, I was a triathlete, hockey, lacrosse, and football. I love sports. So this is something that was always part of my life and my best part of my life. My favorite memories of my life are from playing sports, going on hockey tournaments in Vermont, just all my friends from hockey. Like, the best times of my life was playing hockey in the suburbs of Boston and around, New England and stuff.
And I'm assuming you lost that as a result of your addiction.
Exactly, yeah. I actually went to Johnson. The way I went to Johnson & Wales is my high school therapist was like, oh, what do you want to do? And I told her, I said, I want to play in the NHL. I want to be a hockey player. And she's like, oh, no, that's not an option. Like, you need to pick a major. And I'm like, hockey? And she's like, no. I'm like, what? Kind of just saying, like, you can't just go be an NHL player. And I was like, all right. So, I always had it that I wanted to be a professional athlete. I always knew that's what I wanted to be. But therapists and people told me, well, not therapists, but the athletic directors or whatever you call them for the high school that helps you get into college, they said, no, that's not, so I kind of said jokingly, she's like, well, what else do you like to do? And I said, I love food, I love cooking, and she's like, well, why don't you go, how about this place, Johnson & Wales University, we have a great hockey team and they have a culinary program, so you could do both. I said, okay. So I went to that school, I tried out for the hockey team. I was great at hockey, I was really good, but I don't know if there's politics involved in college or what, but the coach didn't like me. I got in a couple of fights a couple of hockey fights during the tryouts. I was scoring goals, I was good, but the coach didn't like me, so I didn't make the team. And I remember thinking, man, I really was done dirty. I was the best kid. I should have been able to walk on this team, but that was the part that was missing in my life, is that discipline. So that was the last of my hockey career. That's where my hockey career ended. I didn't make I wasn't able to. He basically kicked off the hockey team for fighting. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it went, and I didn't get to play. My dream is being a hockey player. So that's when things got worse. Moved to Florida, got my directive from Jennifer. So now we're here.
And the directive was what?
So this is this directive number 2. Got the job, realized I don't want to be a chef. Is this the rest of my life? For the next 50 years is going to be working in this restaurant cutting onions? I said, I'm meant for something greater. I just knew it. I'm like, something's wrong. Something's missing. And I told this to Jennifer. I sat down in the therapy session. We have an hour therapy session every week. And she said, what's wrong? I said, well, I'm doing everything you said. I'm staying clean. I'm trying to go to meetings. Got a job. I'm working. I'm making money. I'm paying my own rent. I now moved out of the treatment center, and I have my own place that a couple other kids from the treatment center are living with that are in recovery. I'm getting by, but if this is going to be my life, I don't think this is how I want my life to be. I think I'm going to probably go back to doing what I was doing, because my life was better doing that than this. And she said, well, you told me about your sports and stuff. Are you going to the gym? So I go to the LA Fitness, but it's not, something's missing. She goes, well, you told me about your uncle and boxing. Why don't you go find a boxing gym, Charles, and see if you can do that? Because you did the anger management class, you did all this stuff. And I said, all right. She's like, well, now actually, you know what I'm going to do? Your directive now is to go find a boxing gym. And I want you to go in there and try to sign up and see if you can start doing the classes. And I said, okay. And at this time, I only had a bicycle, which I actually had for my first 3 years living in South Florida. I didn't have enough money to buy a car.
So for 3 years, you rode a bicycle to work and
everywhere.
Home?
Home, gym, home. It was basically home, gym, work, home. Home, gym, work, home, repeat every single day. And if I wanted groceries, I rode my bike to Publix with a backpack, and I filled up my bag. You know what I'm saying? So I was basically living off eggs, bread, and orange juice, and that was my 3 things that were the cheapest that I could afford at the time, because life was tough. And but the directive she gave me was to find a boxing gym, and I remember always driving by this gym called American Top Team, and I watched MMA, I watched fighting, but I didn't know much about it. My favorite fighter at the time was Kimbo Slice, the Street Fighter. So I loved watching him, man, and I would always watch his videos every day. He was my favorite fighter at that time, and he came. And the craziest story too is just to it's going to come full circle later in this podcast, is that the reason I got put on something called therapeutic leave when I was in treatment, and they kicked me out of the treatment center for 3 days, and I had to basically live on the beach for 3 days because I
So
never.
what were you doing?
So
that
this
led
is
you
the
to
craziest.
therapeutic relief?
This is the craziest story ever. Kimbo Slice had a fight on TV, and he was fighting a guy named Seth Petroselli, and everyone in the treatment center went into one room. All of our friends, my buddy Matt Simone, David Rudolph, all these kids were in the room, like probably 20 of us in someone's room. Oh, we got the big fight on. It was free on ABC, like a major TV station. It was the biggest fight in like the history of the world at the time, and everyone was excited to watch it. Kimbo Slice was fighting an MMA fighter, and I was so excited for Kimbo Slice, and boom, he gets knocked out in the first 5 seconds, and I'm like, no, and we're all upset. Everyone leaves the room, and there's like 3 or 4 of us left in the room. My boy Matt Simone, who's passed away, he's the rest of his soul. Matt Simone, he died about 8 years ago. He's one of my best friends, for years in recovery. He goes, you know what, Rosa? He must have left and came back. He kicks open the door. He goes, I'm calling you out, like almost like WWE. I was just messing around horseplay. Came in, we started wrestling after the match because we're so riled up, and the match ended so quick. And we start wrestling. Sure enough, boom, like we wrestle, boom, right through the wall, big hole in the wall. And this is in the treatment center, yeah. So guess what? Next day in group, we go into the group, and they say, what's going on? What's up with this hole in the wall? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe from vacuuming. So we sit down in this big group and everything, and then we just denied it. My friend Matt goes, I swear my mother that I don't know what happened. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Just kind of trying to be honest, but like I know that I don't know. I just forget what it's been. And then all of a sudden, sure enough, there's the one kid that goes, wow, fucking this kid, Patrick goes, Charles, Matt, why don't you guys just be honest? This is the whole point of recovery. Why don't you tell them what actually happened? I'm like, oh, bro, just ratted us out. Like, Matt, I never forget the look Matt gave at this kid. I was like, dude. And sure enough, he called us out, which was maybe a good thing. And they put us both on therapeutic leave, which means we had to leave the treatment center for 3 days. But that was because of Kimbo Slice. Which
So it was Kimbo's fault.
Kimbo's fault. No, it was my fault. But in a weird way, this is the craziest part of the story. So going back to the directive, she says to find a boxing gym. I ride past. I find the boxing gym on my bicycle, American Top Team. I walk into the gym. I meet a man named Charles McCarthy. He tells me, hey, man, yeah, we got classes every day. Why don't you come in tonight and do boxing class? I said, oh, man, that would be great. I'm so excited. Luckily, I didn't have work that night. Worked out perfectly. Come back that night. Go into the boxing class, go walk on the mat, and then someone's like, you bow before you get on the mat. I'm like, yeah, right, dude, I'll beat all these dudes. Like, in my head, like, just growing up the way I did, like, I know enough to show respect to people always, but, like, when someone says something to me, then I'm just like, ah. So I tried to show the best etiquette that I did, but went on the mat. The coach says, okay, everyone partner up. We do the class, and we're just doing drills. I had to borrow some gloves. I actually borrowed the gloves, and there's a big bin of, like, sweaty, dirty gloves that everybody uses. Disgusting. Like, I would never use them today, but I didn't have any other option. I borrowed them. And we did the whole class. And at the end of class, the man teaching the class was a guy named Cole Miller. And he was, I didn't know this, but at the time he was a top 10 fighter in the UFC at the moment. And he was a skinny kid, tall, about same weight class as me, but just taller and skinnier. Didn't look like much, just a, regular kid from Georgia, just skinny. Wasn't like a big, what you think a fighter looks like. So I didn't know who he was. But he taught the whole class. In the end of class, he goes, say the last 15 minutes we're sparring, everyone partner up. And I'm like, oh, this is what I came for. Like, let's go. I'm all excited. Sparring. And I'm the odd man out. I look around. I don't got a partner. I'm like, oh, man, that's what I came for. So the coach, Cole Miller, starts hitting the bag. He's like, everyone got a partner? And hey, I don't have a partner. Can I go with you? And he's like, no, it's your first day. Just watch. And I was like, oh, what the hell? I was kind of mad. So then he starts hitting the bag. He goes, no, you're the odd man out. And I go, okay. So I just went on the side and I was watching. And after about 30 seconds, I was impatient. I said, hey, Cole, coach. And he goes, looked over. I go, what about you? You want to spar? He just ignored me. Started hitting the bag again. And I go, was that a no? He goes, you want to spar? I go, yeah, I just asked you. He goes, all right, let's go. Went to the center of the mat. Started sparring, and we went at it. It felt like a fight for me. I mean, I had a bloody lip, probably a black eye by the end of it, but I was still standing. So in my head, I still feel I won the fight. But the coach, Charles McCarthy, the first man I met when I walked in, was watching, from a distance because he wasn't teaching the class. He's probably just doing paperwork in the office for the students. And he came after and, shook my hand. He said, hey, man, where'd you train at before this? And I didn't train. I just grew up in Boston. I got in a bunch of hockey fights and street fights as a kid, but I never been trained. He goes, for real? And I go, yeah. He goes, man, I'm not just spinning your wheels. Like, you're really good at this. And I thought he was just saying that to get me to sign up, like, for the membership, because it's $150 a month, which is a lot of money at the time. So I'm thinking he's just trying to get me to sign up. And he's like, no, he's like, man, he goes, I just kind of was like looking at him, and he's like, do you know who that was you just sparred with? I go, no. He goes, that's Cole Miller. He's a top 10 fighter in the UFC right now. And I go, that guy? Like, because in my head, I'm like, how could he be in the, like, I just thought I beat him up. Like, in my head, you know what I'm saying? I probably didn't, but like, my crazy brain, I was like, nah, I just whooped that kid. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, come back tomorrow, man. And I was like, he's like, you got something special. And I never forget, I went home and I went on the computer and I looked him up and I was like, no way, this kid is the real deal. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. He beat, you know, he's a real fighter, UFC fighter. I'm like, this is what I want to do. A light bulb went off, man. The light bulb went off, boom, that day. The light bulb went off. And I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And you could say, long story short, that's what I did. And as crazy as it sounds, once I started getting going, so the next day I come in the gym, once that light bulb goes off, I'm like so excited. I walk into the gym, and guess who's in there?
I can only imagine.
Yes, you know who?
Kimbo Slice.
Kimbo Slice. My eyes went, poof. I was like, oh my God, Kimbo Slice. Like, dude is in the gym, and my coach Charles McCarthy is training him. So now I'm like, this place is the real deal. Like, this is not like this isn't just some boxing gym on the side of the road. This is like American Top Team, the greatest gym in the planet Earth. I didn't know that. Just by God's plan or whatever you want to call it, I happened to be the one gym I picked was the #1 mixed martial arts gym in the planet Earth. And I didn't know that.
And that was your second day.
Yes.
You
yes.
sparred that first day, and the second day you came back.
Kimbo Slice is in there doing a private
there.
lesson with Coach McCarthy, and I'm waiting to do. I caught there like an hour early just because I was so excited.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think all of this means? I mean,
yeah.
You know, you just happen to be at the right place at the right time all of the time, and anytime you decide, and initially of what you wanted, people said, "Oh no, no, you're going to culinary school.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're going to do this."
Yeah.
And then you wind up in this situation.
Yeah.
There's got to be a power greater than you
100%.
working this thing.
Yeah.
Because it just seemed to work out for you in the right time, not in your time.
Yes. And that's why. And every day past then, I would always think like, if I was home that day, didn't have that spiritual moment, I wouldn't be in this gym right now training. I would be in jail. Like, if they came to my house when that stuff happened, I would be in jail. I wouldn't be in this treatment center. I wouldn't be going to work at Cut 432. I wouldn't be at American Top Team. I wouldn't have met Kimbo Slice. And that day that I walked into that gym, the second day, and I met Kimbo Slice and I saw him, I was like almost too scared to say hi to him because they were doing their lesson. And I went once their lesson ended, like they were kind of doing their own thing. Like I didn't really look inviting to come over, you know what I mean? So I was like, wanted to, but I was held back. And sure enough, Coach Charles McCarthy set me up right before. He goes, I was like, went to go get the dirty gloves out of the bin, you know, the sweaty, nasty gloves that I would never put on. You probably get sick if you put them on. But those were the ones I had. I went to pull them out, and he goes, Charles, you still haven't got a pair of gloves yet? And I said, no, I don't really have any money, but can I use these? He goes, well, of course, that's what they're there for. He goes, and then Kimbo Slice looked over and looked down. He goes, boost. He said something. He just yelled something. He goes, and he whispered over to his manager, said something. And then a guy named Icy Mike, who ended up being a huge, sponsor person in my life, good guy, helped me get big fights, helped me get into the UFC, who was his manager at the time. Hey, man, I just talked to Kimbo over there, man, and he wants to give you a pair of gloves. Could be here tomorrow morning. I was like, whoa, no way. So I didn't really say anything. Next morning I come in. I get there like an hour early. I'm excited. I'm waiting. Kimbo Slice walks in with a brand new pair of boxing gloves, Triumph United boxing gloves. I'll never forget. They were black and red. And he hands them to me and gave me my first pair of boxing gloves from the biggest mentor person I looked up to the most in the world. Gave me my first pair of boxing gloves.
Wow.
And when I said the light bulb went off the first day, that light bulb just got way brighter. And, man, I went every single day. If I wasn't working at Cut 432 or in a group or Renaissance, I was in the gym. I trained as much as I could. I remember Jennifer, my therapist, was like, well, you're not having much of a program for recovery, Charles. You've basically just substituted your addiction with martial arts, but it's working, so we're
You know
happy.
what? And that's true.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's
What matters is what works.
Yep.
And if that's what's working for you, keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm thinking about that bicycle.
Yeah.
Boy, that bicycle gave you the foundation
Yep.
to do, all of that cardio that you were doing. Probably.
I didn't even think about, dude. So then one thing that they did is they changed the gym from Boca, where it was near my house, to a Boynton Beach. So then the bike ride came from a 5-mile bike ride to a 9-mile bike ride. And to wake up in the morning, ride 9 miles to the gym, do kickboxing class, jiu-jitsu class, ride back, maybe take an hour nap or just relax or change for an hour, then ride all the way back to Atlantic Avenue to cut 432, work until 12:30 at night, and then ride my bike all the way back at 12:30 at night back to my the place that I was renting, like a whatever it is, complex of condos, whatever, with all the other kids that were in there. And that cardio and that dude, that was what my biggest strength in my entire UFC career. I fought in the UFC for 10 years and I'm still fighting now. I'm a 2-time world champion. Like my dreams all came true, after this, is that it came from that. Like that struggle is what made me be great.
And there's some humility in that. When I think about a guy who rides a bicycle
Yeah.
without getting a car, because you prioritized. You probably could have bought a car, but it would have taken your money.
Yep.
And you couldn't have done other things.
Yeah, I couldn't have paid the gym. I had to pay $150 a month for the gym. Like that's a lot of money. I had to pay somewhat of the rent. I tried to organize where I had to pay the least amount for the rent, and everyone had to pay more and did what I had to do. But yeah, and I had to buy food, and I had to, if I wanted to, and then I started competing. And to compete as an amateur MMA fighter, you don't get paid money. You pay money to do it. I had to pay for blood work, eye exams, licensing, things that I didn't have money for, and then I had to pay the gym. And this is all to fight for free. So I became, during this 4 years of my bicycle, 3 years of my bicycle riding around Delray, I became the #1 amateur fighter in the country. I won 20 fights in a row. I was the Florida, breakout fighter of the year for all fighters in the world, of the United States. Of Florida, and and I became awesome. I did it because I loved it. Nobody fought 20 amateur fights.
Yeah.
If you fought 3 amateur fights and you won pro. Everyone said, "Why are you staying amateur?" But I said, "Well, my coach Charles McCarthy, he had the blueprint. He fought in the UFC. He made it to the top level. He was an expert, a very smart, intelligent man, which not a lot of fighters are. Luckily, I was able to find him, and he gave me the blueprint. He said, Charles, this is what you need to do. You need to be ready your first pro fight to be fighting in the UFC, and you need to be ready your first UFC fight to be UFC champion. A lot of these guys, they're not ready, and they get in there, and that's what I did. I fought all these amateur fights for free, and I built, Rosa Nation, built up the fan base, and man, finally ended up getting that call from the Dana White in the UFC, and that's when my dreams really came true.
Yeah. So let me ask you about fighting. So you're fighting, you are beating the shit out of somebody.
Yep.
How are you angry? Are you acting?
Yeah.
What is that? What's going through you when because it looks like you're killing the guy.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to, and that's what people are like. They meet me and they're like, "Man, you're the nicest kid. You ain't got no tattoos on you. You're smiling. You're a gentleman, and you seem like you're not too mean of a guy. Like you don't got a mean bone in your body. Like you don't really look too crazy like a fighter. It might probably more now than I did before because I'm been at it for a minute, but where does this anger come from?" And then it regresses back to losing my older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I not sure if I still ever dealt with that stuff. It's tough. I never forget my brother Dom always told me, he's like, you never let anybody punk you or take anything from you, and that sticks in my head all the time. I always the way I grew up was tough. We never let someone take something from you.
I'm noticing a look in your face,
Yeah.
and it was the look that I saw earlier when I asked you how you were feeling.
Yeah.
So this is really some powerful emotions come up when you think about your brothers and when you actually talk about your addiction and bottoming out. I can see it.
Yeah, and, and that's where it all stems from. So I have all these problems, and my way of getting these problems out is in the cage. And
so
whoever's standing across from me
how do you turn it off, though? You know, the fight's over. You've won. Do you just...
It's to get to that point is a switch. So it's a process. You know, I diet, I do everything right, training camp. I'm not angry. You know, I go in the gym. You know, there's people in there. I spar them and stuff, and you know, I'm a tough kid. They used to line the entire class up against the wall, and I used to take them out one by one, and they would like, man, Charles is so tough. Like, what is it? And they would always say I'm tough. They never said I was fast. They never said I was strong. They never said I was, you know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this kid's so talented. They said I was tough. Like, so I didn't know if I took that as an insult, but like, it was like, what made me a great fighter is my toughness. And that came from dealing with, you know, losing my brothers, raised the way I did for my father, growing up in Boston with the friends that I did. You had to be tough, man, or you wouldn't make it. And I did come to realize there's a saying that I learned when I traveled the entire planet, went to Thailand to train Muay Thai, went to Holland to train Dutch kickboxing. I traveled, you know, Cambodia, trained in Bogota. I've trained Brazil, trained in jiu-jitsu. I've made that also part of my journey is traveling, something I absolutely love.
Sure.
But it just kind of all comes, you know, back to just, you know, to doing what I love. But yeah.
So back to the fighting. Have you ever hurt anyone really bad?
Yeah.
And what's that like to?
So I guess the question you asked me before is, you're like, man, how do you go from being Charles Rosa, a nice kid, to wanting to murder somebody, like actually kill him? Because my philosophy and my feel of it is like kill or be killed. I'm going in there with another guy that's trying to hurt me and take my dream away, take all those bike rides, all that therapy, everything that I put on the table, they're trying to take that from me. So I make up a crazy thing in my head saying that this guy's trying to take everything I work for. This motherfucker's trying to take everything I ever worked for. I said, no, this kid's not taking nothing from me. And then I start getting myself revved up before the fight. I said, oh, he's coming in here. He's going to try to embarrass me in front of my friends and fans and all these 200 people wearing Rosa Nation shirts, my aunts and uncles in the crowd. He wants to embarrass me. He's going to stand over me after he knocks me out and, you know, step over me. No, that's not happening. It's either me or him, kill or be killed. And I get into this mode and I start revving myself up and I get mean, I get angry, I start banging my fists together, and it's fight time. And then sure enough, the lights boom turn on, my walkout music comes on, and I walk out, and had you know, tens of thousands of people chanting Rosa, you know, under the bright lights at the Boston Garden, you know, fighting for my life, trying to kill the guy across from me. And it's, you know, I get goosebumps thinking about those feelings. You know, I have the most all-time wins at the Boston Garden, where I grew up as a kid watching the Bruins, Celtics, and that stadium from the nosebleeds, and then to be in the center stage, you know, fighting somebody else on, you know, Fox Nation or ABC or, you know, pay-per-view with millions tuned in, that's my dream, and that's what I continue to do, and I continue to chase. And man, I just,
you know, this may be a little trivia question, but I'm noticing your ears.
Yeah.
You have normal ears.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I think has gotten me as far as I can, and probably the reason that I'm 39 years old and I'm still healthy fighting. Fighters aren't the smartest guys usually. If you go into a gym, I'd say 9 out of 10 of them are dummies, like real dummies, like the dumbest kids you ever met in your life. But you get 1 or 2, like my coach Charles McCarthy, who's a special person that can give you. So most fighters, what happens is you get something called cauliflower ears. You get hit in your ear and it gets swollen, and then the more you train, the more it turns into like a rock. It turns into like an ugly troll looking ear, and it's called cauliflower ear, and a lot of wrestlers and fighters get it. So the first time I ever got hit in the ear, you know, I guess I would like to think I'm a smart kid. I said, you know, to my coach Charles McCarthy, who's a smart coach, I said, well, man, my ear really hurts, like, and I see all these guys with these ugly ears, and I want to maybe get a wife or a girlfriend one day. Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, man, just go to the store and buy wrestling headgear, ear guards. And I go, oh, okay. So I did that. I ordered them off Amazon, $10, and I put these ear guards on. And I noticed all the kids in the gym would be like, oh, they would make fun of me. Oh, you wearing ear guards, you wuss, you know? And I'm like, all right, well, in my head, I'm like, well, I'd rather get made fun of in the gym than get made fun of outside, you know, by girls or not wanting to be able to get a date. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that was always my philosophy. I said, well, I mean, I don't need to impress these guys in the gym. Like, I rather impress people outside the gym than inside the gym. Like, I know what I'm here to do. I'm here to be a good fighter, and having messed up ears doesn't make you a better fighter.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually fighters that have lost fights because they get punched in the ear and it's been ripped off because it's so hard. It just turns into a block. So I always kept that in my head too. But yeah, that's why I don't have cauliflower ear, because I was just, I guess, and as crazy as it sounds, is one of the things that they would teach you in therapy is, like, in the groups, they would say, like, you know, take directives from people, like, listen to people, like, practice, like, all these, like, different, like, they can taking advice for someone. And a lot of fighters don't take advice from nobody. But since I was instilled that from the groups and stuff like that, like, maybe listen to someone that knows what they're talking about more than you, something that I didn't have before until I went to therapy. But when my coach said that, he suggested I do that, I took his suggestion. Now my ears are normal.
It's interesting you didn't fall under the peer pressure to not wear them.
Yeah.
And I also wondering, because you mentioned you don't have tattoos. You're not full of tattoos. Why no tattoos?
I don't know. I just liked, I always thought, like, people got tattoos because, like, wanted to be tough. My dad would always, oh, that guy has tattoos, he thinks he's tough, you know? And I'm like, I don't need to prove to anyone. You know what I'm saying? I just, in my head, like, that's kind of always what I thought. Like, my dad didn't have tattoos. And I think, you know, I mean, tattoos have a meaning to them for a lot of people, so, like, I get it. Like, I think they're awesome. I came so close to getting, my brother Dominic had Rosa tattooed on his back, and that's something I always wanted to do. Who knows, maybe I'll still do it, but, like, I just always thought, like, especially once I started fighting, because I didn't have money to get a tattoo too, so I think I would have got that Rosa tattoo on my back if I had the money. But as it started going on, like, I just started feeling like, you know, like, I don't need a tattoo to be tough. Like, I'm going to earn it this way. And I fought. And then once I started fighting, like, I started noticing, like, I kind of like having this clean look where people don't think I'm a fighter. I don't need to get all these things to make me look at an image that I'm not, like cauliflower ear, tattoos, big muscles, and take steroids. Like, that's the only drug I probably never done in my life was steroids. And you know, I'd say 95% of fighters take steroids. So it did put me at a huge disadvantage. Actually, my first UFC fight ever was against a guy named Dennis Seaver, number 8 fighter in the planet Earth, was my first UFC fight. And he tested positive for steroids before the fight and after, which is just, but so, like, to fight guys that are on, now the fight would have been overturned and I would have a victory, but back then it wasn't like that. They almost allowed it. But, like, that's one thing I never did, which I don't know if it would have helped me or not, but whatever. You know what I mean?
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what you view as your recovery program.
Yep.
What is it that's working for you? What do you do? What do you not do? What's your recovery look like?
So I've, you know, I said I've been down here for 17 years. I had 8 years clean, completely clean. And at that time, I would actually still go to I would still go to the Renaissance, and I would pick kids up. There's one of my good friends, Jose. I got a call from one of the therapists, like, hey, we got this kid. He has some anger management issues. So I would help. I'd go to these. I wouldn't go to meetings. I stopped going to meetings maybe after a year. And I started just helping kids in the program and taking them from the treatment center to jiu-jitsu class. Like, my friend Jose now is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is really cool to see him go from being in a treatment center to being, you know, full black belt martial artist, which is a very difficult thing to accomplish. But, you know, helping people. But what was the question you asked again? You said,
what is your recovery program?
Yeah, my recovery program.
Like?
Yeah. So, like, it started off helping people and stuff like that. And then halfway through my UFC career, I had a major neck injury, a spinal injury. I had to get a double neck fusion. The doctor said it was improbable I would ever fight again. I remember flying to New York with my parents, and I sat down in this room similar to one we're in now with the best spinal surgeon on the planet Earth, because I had access to that since I was fighting in the UFC. He sat me down just like you're sitting across from me now, my parents over in the corner, and he looked at me. He goes, Charles, I'm sorry to inform you, but it's improbable you'll ever fight again. And at this point, I'm 34 years old, in the middle of my career, chasing my dream of being UFC champion, and that wasn't an answer I was okay with. I said, no. He said, well, what do you mean? Well, no. I said, I'm thinking of all these things. I looked at my parents. They had that same look in their eyes as when my brothers passed away. They just didn't have an answer for me. It was the only 2 times in my life that my parents didn't have something to say that could make me feel better, you know, because they just don't know about, they're not a doctor. They looked at the ground. And I said, what can I say right now? I go, are you telling me it's improbable or impossible? He said improbable, less than a 1% chance. I said, well, listen, doc, I go, I'm a 1%er. 1% of people have went through and experienced what I've went through. 1% of fighters have made it to the UFC. I'm a 1%er, so I'll take my chances with the 1%. He goes, okay, Charles. He goes, I'll do everything I can do. I'll do the surgery. I'll do the best I can possibly do. But like I said, the odds are not on your side. It's very improbable, but it is possible. And I said, okay, thank you, doc. Please do your best. We left that day. After 18 months of another surgery, long recovery, physical therapy, going into physical therapy with 80-year-old, 90-year-old ladies on friggin' walking on the treadmill. Hey, what are you doing here? I said, oh, I'm a fighter. I'm gonna fight again. And even the physical therapist would like kind of just not laugh at me, but they're like, you think you're gonna fight again? And I'm like, yep. He's like, no, not man. Yeah, it's okay. We're just gonna get you back to, being able to, exercise again, maybe. And I'm like, no, I'm going to fight again. And 6 months went by, 8 months went by. And they also told me you're going to come once every 3 days to physical therapy. Basically, the UFC Dana White told me that everything is covered. I can do as much therapy as I want. So when I went to that physical therapy place in South Florida, I went to a really good one. I got to go to the best one. And I talked to the physical therapist. I said, no, I'm going to go every single day, maybe twice a day. They said, what? Nobody does that. I go, well, like I said, I'm a 1%. I'm not like everybody else. And sure. I always had this in my head. I'm not like everybody else. And I did. They allowed it because it was paid for. So they're not going to turn down money. I went sometimes twice a day, physical therapy twice a day, like it was my job. Morning and night, I ended up almost like I was going to get a job working there. They loved me so much. They ended up loving me. Like I was there every day, working. They're putting lasers on my head, working on my proprioception. Like the guy, David, I've never forget his name, Dr. David, he started really taking me in as like a personal client, because then he saw me go from not being able to do one push-up to doing one push-up to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 to 20 to 50. And he's like, oh my God, Charles, you actually might fight again. And I'm like, I told you. And he's like, all right. So this goes to, this is part of it, my recovery. But during that time, they gave me prescription pain pills, and that was tough. So I had to go through that whole experience again. The doctors basically said, if you don't take these pills, then you're going to cause pressure on your spinal cord, and it's not going to reduce the inflammation if you don't take them. So I said, listen, man, I have a problem. I can't. He's like, no, you have to take them. So I was like, okay. So I took them, and it got to a dark place, and I had another one of those spiritual moments where I was watching a UFC fight on a leg bike, and I just broke down in tears, and I took the pills and I threw them away. And so now we go to like, what is my recovery like? And as messed up as it sounds, my recovery is toughness.
Let me just go back a little bit here. So you were prescribed the medication.
Yep.
Did you take it as prescribed, or did you overtake it?
I started taking it as prescribed.
Okay, but then it turned into...
Then I wouldn't take it so I could take twice as much. Then I started, you know how it works.
Okay, all right. So it was a relapse.
It was, yes, for sure. Like it started off as, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Then I'm not going to take the 8 o'clock one, so I can take 2 at this time. So I actually feel, and then it just progressively got worse until I was a drug addict again from these prescription pain pills. Yeah. And they were the strongest ones you could possibly get. I think I found out the doctors pretty much give you those so you don't bother them, because you're next going to be in pain. Like once you have enough pain pills, you ain't going to be bothering the doctor. You won't be in pain. Sure. So it is what it is. But yeah, so I had another spiritual moment. I was just watching a UFC fight, and I said, if I want to get back to this, I can't be doing this. And I threw him out. Went through that whole thing again. But then you said, what does my recovery look like?
Yeah, what does your recovery look like?
What does my recovery look like? So then it's basically like, I know that I cannot be a professional athlete if I'm, using any substances, and they're also illegal. So that helped me a lot too, is like having the USADA and not being under that stuff. But I always looked at, like, I would go with my dad. I would speak at high schools, help kids. I had my hobby. I would train, clients in boxing, kickboxing, and I'm chasing a dream to be world champion. And, drugs and being a fighter doesn't mix. And it's just, that's pretty much been like the thing that my dad said to me. He's like, you wake up every morning, you answer the bell, and you make that decision every day, and you win that fight. And I win that fight as many days as I can every single day. And that's basically like my recovery program. And it's tough.
You're giving back to others.
Yes.
You're carrying a message.
Yes.
And isn't that what the 12-step is about?
Yeah.
And things like perseverance is one of the 12 steps. honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. All of these steps have principles, and it sounds like you're practicing these principles
Yeah.
in your affairs. Okay, you're not going to meetings.
Yep.
All right, but you do seem to have a recovery program. Now, I know you're a father and a husband now.
Yeah, I got
That challenges recovery.
Yes, for sure. That's just that's like it's a big part of it, you know. Like I have a beautiful 6-month-old baby, Bella Marie Rosa. She's the best gift I've ever been given in my life, you know. And a wife now, beautiful wife, and like it's almost like storybook. Like I have everything, you know. They have a beautiful house, that all the stuff that I was able to get, because I made the right choices and I changed my life around. But it all started with that one directive that Jennifer Laurie, my therapist, gave me at the time, is to go find, a directive to go find a replacement activity, because life wasn't working like at the moment for me.
And you're 38 now.
39, yeah.
39 years old. What's the future hold for Charles?
Man, it's crazy because everyone says 39 and they're like, man, aren't you done? Like this is like most fighters and athletes are done by 39. But I feel like I was always such a late bloomer. Like I just feel like I was just a late bloomer in life, and I feel like I'm like 28. My body feels like that. I feel like I have a lot of fight left in me, and I'm not done yet. And I still think that the best is yet to come. I just got entered into the biggest lightweight Grand Prix tournament ever. It's a bare knuckle MMA Grand Prix 16-man tournament for $500,000 for game bred fighting, which the fights will take place in Dominican Republic and Miami, swapping over the next year. And it's the biggest lightweight tournament basically in fighting history. And I'm going to be one of the top seeds in the tournament, and I'm going to look forward to winning that, becoming, world champion, a true world champion. I've always been my dream. And that's what I'm up against now.
Do you do any training? Do you coach other younger fighters?
Yep, I have a whole list of fighters. I actually just got back from Tokyo. My buddy Danny Sabatello just won the Rising World Bantamweight Championship of the World. And the way I met Danny was at American Top Team. It was his first day in the gym, and he said I was the first person to come on the mat, say hi to him, welcome him. And gyms are very intimidating when you come in. It's your first day. Like, nobody's saying hi to you. They're looking at you like fresh meat, like, Yeah. But I know better. He's a tough kid from Chicago, and all-American wrestler at the time. But he didn't know anything else. And I remember the first day he told me, because I don't throw kicks. And I was like, bro, you got to learn everything. You just trust me. And he did it, man. And 10 years later, last week I just got back from Tokyo. He asked me to corner him in Tokyo, Japan. 50,000 people cheering his name. Seeing this kid his first day on the mat, couldn't even throw a kick, to becoming the world champion is one of the kids that is special. I have my little brother Lucas Rosa, who's the #1 prospect in the world right now. He's 10 years younger than me. For his weight class,
Wow.
Hopefully go to the UFC. And I got tons of others. So my boy Scrappy, he does. He's actually fighting this week for a world title. So I got all the guys that I do train, which I do have to focus. Fighting is a selfish sport, so I have to focus on myself. But the ones I can, and then another most meaningful one. Just a quick story is my buddy Daniel Marcos. About 4 or 5 years ago, they dropped my buddy Daniel off from Peru with just a backpack and sandals, and this kid didn't speak a word of English, and wasn't in the UFC yet, and 4 years later now, he's a top 10 fighter in the UFC. Made his dreams come true, and hopefully he'll be an eventual world champion. He speaks English now, and I speak Spanish, so we figured it out together, but really cool.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, I saw you fight on skates.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that's becoming something?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. The fighting is always evolving, and they're finding new ways to do it. And it's crazy because it kind of comes full circle, is that, like, there's an opportunity that came up called BKFC, Bare Knuckle Boxing, Ice Wars Hockey Fights. And when I saw that, I reached out to the people. I said, hey, man, if you need a guy, they're like, man, you'd be perfect. We don't have any NHL veterans. We don't have any UFC fighters. We need someone. So I have my manager, Lex McMahon, call them, work out a deal. And, man, to be able to do I used to do hockey fights for free, man. So if I can get paid, a lot of money to do it in front of, thousands of fans at the American Bank Arena, the home of the Stanley Cup champion, the Florida Panthers, and be the main event, that's the dream come true. That's the dream for me. So I'm living it, and I'm in the middle of it, and I'm gonna continue doing what I love and fighting until I feel like I don't want to do it anymore. You know, I just found out yesterday. My wife might kill me, but I'm for sharing this. But I have another baby on the way, so I found out yesterday, which was really magical. So it'll be baby number 2, and
get that big Rosa family started.
Rosa Nation continuing to grow. So that's it.
Yeah. All right, great. So, Charles, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out what you're doing and where you're going? How would they know?
You guys can catch me on Instagram, is probably where I'm most active, at Charles Rosa MMA. I got Twitter, TikTok, all those things. You can always just Google my name, Charles Rosa, if you want to find out what my latest fights are for the upcoming Game Bred tournament. I believe I will be fighting in another bare knuckle Ice Wars fight, probably in April at the American Bank Arena, so you guys can look out for that. And, you know, just continue on the journey. And I always appreciate the support. And anybody that wants to help with, you know, people in recovery, you can go to chuckysfight.com, and you can look at the ways to donate to help people to get into treatment centers. All the money goes to a good place, and all of it is used towards positive things. You could look at it and check it out.
Right. And, you know, one thing I wanted to mention, though, which was a proud moment for me, was having you at the Lift Lounge and working out together with you and knowing you didn't kick my ass on that machine, that I was able to keep up with Charles Rosa. That was a great experience for me, let me tell you.
No, dude, you're a beast, man. There's no doubt about it. I was like, man, how, like, I'm like the top level athlete in the entire planet. My resting heart rate's at like a 36. I'm like, you know, I could go forever. And you had me go to that Lift Lounge and do these Pilates on this board, bro. I almost died, but man, it makes me have a lot of respect for you too, man. You're like, I hope I can be like you when I get to your age and still, you know, doing what I love, going to the gym and working out and
well,
crushing
keep doing what you're doing, and you'll probably surpass me.
I hope.
Absolutely.
You're the man.
All right, great having you.
Thank you, man.
All right. This episode is sponsored by Guardian Recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction or mental health challenges, Guardian can help. Visit guardianrecovery.com or call 888-721-3790 for confidential support and guidance.